Hey everybody, welcome, Q&A time. Glad to be here with y'all. And thank y'all for submitting some questions. Feel free to submit some more as we're going today. I've got a handful of questions here that we've gathered up from Facebook, but feel free to add yours in. So we can talk about anything, but the primary goal of this talk was just to be able to answer your questions about how to really maintain your terrain during this time of isolation and quarantine and anxiety and fear and all this stuff. So it's kind of the same in a lot of ways to how you would maintain your terrain in normal times. Most of us are overwhelmed and stressed out just from the busyness of life. So the fact that we're having to shut life down in a way is actually a silver lining. And there's some benefit to that. You can slow down and spend some time doing some terrain building that really we should be doing all the time. So we'll dive right into these questions, and then I'll give you some of my own thoughts and other comments. So one question was, what about the carnivore diet? So the carnivore diet, for those that don't know, is a diet that is solely animal products only. So eggs, heavy cream and butter, of course meat, just purely animal products. So what about it? In regards to your terrain, what I would say is if these products are coming from a high quality source, pasture raised, grass fed, wild caught, quality animal products, then it can be extremely beneficial from a nutrient standpoint. These are things that have a high nutrient density. We talk about the plants being so diminished in their nutrition levels because of the farming techniques. These animals kind of concentrate all these nutrients in the organ and muscle meats, and that's what I would say is head to tail, I think is the new, or snout to tail. The whole animal, ancestrally, we know that people ate the organ meats preferentially because that's where most of the nutrients are at, especially the minerals, the B vitamins. I mean, there's lots of good nutrients in those organ meats. So we do use the carnivore diet in chronic disease reversal or addressing chronic inflammation. It really is an anti-inflammatory diet, actually. People have such leaky guts. If you're not familiar with that term, I'm not going to go into it, but basically you have a porous gut lining, so there's a lot of plant chemicals that can get across and irritate people, drive inflammation. Everybody knows about gluten, but then there's lectins and there's phytates and the histamine response and just so many different food particles that normally should be digested by your stomach acid and by your gallbladder and pancreatic enzymes and then by the probiotic enzymes that the gut bacteria make. You would break all that down, no problem. And then when you don't have a leaky gut, you would naturally absorb those things across appropriately. But with leaky gut and poor digestion, you're getting all these plant proteins coming across irritating people. So sometimes we use carnivore in a situation like that when people are reacting to so many plant foods. Long term, I think we need a little more diversity than that. Next, is the coronavirus really much more contagious than the flu? I can't say for sure. I don't think anybody knows for sure. It's too early to say. I think it is spreading rapidly because it's a novel virus we haven't really seen. There's some questions about whether it came out of a lab, so if it did, if there's any manipulation to it, whether that was purposeful manipulation for vaccine research or it was purposeful manipulation for biological weapons or whatever, and I don't know that. But if it was manipulated in some way, then it's a very novel virus. If it's a mutated or it came from an animal and we just haven't seen it, that'll allow it to spread pretty quickly. But I don't know from a contagious standpoint if influenza is right here and coronavirus is right here. I think it's going to be pretty similar as far as the ability to get into your body. What are good substitutes we can buy elsewhere for products Veritas Market is out of? I don't know for sure because I haven't looked. I would generically say Amazon or some online shop. Your local vitamin, good health food store, I'd probably look there. But from what I've seen, at least locally, a lot of people are out of the basics. And a lot of our folks that we purchase from, our wholesalers, they're all limiting the supply we can purchase. So as soon as we get some, we sell out again. Or they're just back ordered. I know our whole food vitamin C, I talked to the manufacturer today, and he said late next week they should ship another 100 bottles. That's just 100 though. So, I'm sorry, I don't know for sure. But don't forget, yesterday I was at a Natural Grocers here in Lubbock, bought a thing of sauerkraut, took it home, and my kids devoured it in one setting. So I got to go get some more. I should be making my own probably. But sauerkraut has a ton of vitamin C. Go get a big bag of organic limes and squirt a lime in a glass of water every day. Don't forget the food has the nutrition in it. You just need more of it because of the farming techniques and picking it too early, but there's still some there. So get those citrus fruits in for the vitamin C. And sunshine, get the sun for the vitamin D. So there's ways to get these things in food. Real butter is full of good vitamins, vitamin A, D, and K. So that's where the animal products come in. You get a lot of the fat solubles, and it's those fat solubles, A, D in particular, that really help with the immune function. So eat high quality fats from animals. Next question. If someone has mild to moderate coronavirus symptoms, should they use a nebulizer with vitamin A, C, D, iodine, and peroxide? If so, what ratios do you use? So I'll caveat before I answer this is anything nebulized really needs to be under the care of a doctor. I can't prescribe or recommend medical therapies to the general public. I can relate what's been done in some research. I can relate, what we generally do in our clinic, but for specific guidance for you, you need to really get with your practitioner. Hopefully you have access to a healthcare practitioner who has been educated beyond standard allopathic medical education, and the reason I say that is that standard medical education model produces the worst outcomes pretty much. And we've gone through that before. If you look at all health outcomes, the U.S. in particular gets the worst outcomes. So we'd probably want to look outside that education. I'm not saying there's no value in that education. There's some value. But it'd be even more valuable to get a practitioner who's been doing some continual medical education, CME, which I do. In the integrative realm, even internationally, traditional Chinese medicine, Ayurvedic medicine from India, just some different, get their toolbox more expanded. So I'd recommend you visit with your practitioner about that. But in general, I can say you don't nebulize the vitamins A, C, and D that were mentioned in this question. Those would be oral. So take those orally as a supplement form or in food. So vitamin A and D, I like to get from cod liver oil because those are a natural form, food-based form, and they're in a ratio of 10 to 1. In nature, anywhere you see vitamin A, you see vitamin D with it. It's in a 10 to 1 ratio, 10 being the vitamin A, D being the 1. And when you get out of balance of that ratio, and especially if you take synthetic D, there are unintended consequences to that. So I prefer sunshine and cod liver oil for those two vitamins. And then vitamin C, I prefer a whole food based. So think of vitamin C as a complex molecule, kind of like your car. So the ascorbic acid, which is 99% of the vitamin C's out there, is just the outer shell of the car. But all those inner workings, the transmission, the steering wheel, everything else, the vitamin C molecule has lots of phytonutrients and other properties and other compounds that are very beneficial and work in synergy. So I think it's best, optimal to do that. If you can't do that though and you're in a pinch, especially if you're symptomatic, the studies show ascorbic acid from an antioxidant standpoint can benefit you. I've quoted these studies from ICU patients where mortality rates drop from 60% or 50% closer to 8% and 13% in these published studies just by adding a little bit of intravenous ascorbic acid. So the A, C, and D do orally. Now iodine and peroxide, Dr. Brownstein has interviewed a couple of his patients. You can go to drbrownstein.com and look at his blog from this week. You'll see a couple of videos there. And he instructs his patients, as we do ours, at times if they're having respiratory symptoms, to nebulize hydrogen peroxide diluted, and it's food grade. So not just the regular old peroxide that's at any store, in the brown bottle. You need to go to a health food store, get food grade 3%. There's also food grade 35%. You need to dilute that down to a 3% if that's all you have available to you. And you do that with a 10 to 1 dilution. But food grade 3% hydrogen peroxide, what we tell our patients to do, and you need to ask your doctor about doing, is putting about 20 drops in 3 C's of sterile water or saline. We add a pinch of baking soda to it and then nebulize that. You could add a drop or two of Lugol's iodine. That's just straight iodine in a liquid form. Iodine is a natural germ killer. It's in the column on the periodic table, same as fluoride and bromide and chlorine. It's the halogens, and the halogens kill germs. That's why Clorox kills bugs. Now, the iodine is the one for the human body. Fluoride, bromide, and chlorine aren't as beneficial. However, most people are very deficient in iodine because it's just not in our diet anymore. And Dr. Brownstein has a great book on iodine too. The little bit that they put in iodized table salt, and that's processed at such a high temperature, it renders it very difficult for the body to utilize that. So we recommend eating lots of kelp and seaweed, or getting a supplemental form like the Lugol's. If you think about before a surgery, like you're going in for abdominal surgery, they scrub your abdomen down with iodine on the surface because it kills every germ known to man. But there's iodine receptors inside your body. Iodine should be hooked up into all those receptors, and it's a great germ killer internally. But it can be nebulized, same thing, 1 to 2 drops in a couple saline, 2-3 C's of saline, or water is what we tell our patients to do. Talk to your doctor about his recommendations for you. I meant to bring it. I forgot, I was in a hurry, but I've got a little book. It's from the 1930s. Got it in a bookstore in London. And it is it's protocols that doctors used to use in the early 1900s with hydrochloric acid. Same thing as what's in your stomach acid. It was diluted 1 to 500 or even 1 to 1,000, and they would nebulize that. But that book also talks about protocols to do hydrochloric acid diluted intravenously, intramuscularly as an injection for infection. Before there were antibiotics, they used hydrochloric acid as a great germ killer. So just a thought too, I know some here locally, there are some products at the health food store with diluted hydrochloric acid that people have been known to nebulize. Next question, is it okay to drive to my daughter's neighborhood to walk with her? I guess you'd have to check with your local authorities. So I'm going to answer this just from my doctor perspective. You're in a car, you're not contagious to anyone else. When you're in your car, you're getting out at your daughter's home. It's a family event. It sounds like it's just you and your daughter, 2 people. If you're staying 6 feet apart, that's, I think the quarantine type answer of course. Go for a walk. I mean, being outside in the sunshine and fresh air is probably one of the safest places you could be. And being with a loved one at this time also is very beneficial for your health. So, and that question kind of leads me just in general, I want to speak to the fear and anxiety overwhelming everybody. And I understand it because probably you're watching the news so much. So number 1, turn off the news, or turn down the news, or at least minimize it to a degree, because the news is there to keep you hooked on watching the news. So that old saying, if it bleeds, it leads. I mean, newspapers, internet, news sites, TV news sites, it's all about getting you to come back. And something about the human condition will come back when someone's in pain or suffering or hurting or bleeding or dying. And so they're reporting on every single death and not reporting on life. So we want to speak life and believe life. So turn that down a little bit. And still just remember the facts, and I'll come back later with all the latest numbers, but based off last week's numbers, that death rate, depend on, there's some asterisks to this, but it's around that 1% mark, kind of like influenza, a little bit more, maybe a little less because the testing's not fully there. I think if you tested every single person who had a runny nose and a dry cough, you'd see a whole lot of coronavirus that's not being reported in the stats, meaning it would drive the death rate down even more. So yes, the ICUs are being overwhelmed, particularly in urban areas where there's a high volume of patients, and there's a high number of patients that just don't have good terrain. I mean, it's these folks been eating sugar, they're smokers, they're diabetic, they're overweight, they're asthmatic, there's smog involved, there's all kinds of terrain issues. And you get a new novel virus coming in, boom, yeah, if you have 2,000 people show up in your ER over a matter of a few days, it's going to overwhelm a system like that. And I've been preaching for years to please don't rely on that system, and don't fear when that system collapses or becomes unavailable for some reason. I used to say it based on the thought process that Medicare is going to go insolvent, and we don't need to worry about that. But now from the standpoint of just an overwhelming number of patients in these ERs and ICUs, and we only have so many ventilators, the best way to not have to worry about any of that is to not need that system. And you shouldn't need that system. You don't need to be a part of that system. You can be healthy and well. So that's why we come and bring you this kind of information, to try to convince you and remind you of the truth. And the truth is 99% of you will survive coronavirus. The 1% that won't are elderly, and they're already have preconditions. Those pre-existing conditions can usually be, because they're all diet and lifestyle related, can be prevented or even reversed. If you go on our website, veritasmedical.com, go under the testimonials, and you'll see all kinds of testimonials from people with rheumatoid arthritis, ulcerative colitis, ADHD, asthma, diabetes, interstitial cystitis, you name the disease, and they've gone into remission or they're symptom-free. So just because you have a pre-existing condition doesn't mean you need to keep it. You can make it a non-existing condition by dealing with the root cause. That's what we're talking about. The root cause of an immune system that can't deal with coronavirus is because that immune system is in sympathetic dominant mode, meaning fight or flight mode. That shuts down the immune system. It's full of sugar, shuts down the immune system. Full of stress, shuts down the immune system. Doesn't have vitamin A, D, and C. That operates the immune system. There's no copper available. That operates the immune system too. I mean, it's these basic things, guys, that your body will utilize to fight this bug. I had a patient this week. She's positive for coronavirus. Barely had a runny nose and a dry cough for a day or two, felt a little achy. That was it, and that's the vast majority, so just remember that. Next question. Are your recommendations for ways of maintaining a healthy terrain any different for a post-transplant kidney person? Normally, they are advised against citrus fruits and probiotics, etc. It sounds like this person who asked this is probably a post-transplant patient, kidney transplant patient, and you're not my patient, so I can't really say specifically to go against your doctor's advice for your particular situation. So I would have to defer to your doctor. But in general, I would say everyone's terrain is optimized by the same basic things. There's good bacteria in fermented food. I always prefer to go that route as opposed to a probiotic pill. Citrus fruits, probably what they're getting at with that is this notion that certain citrus fruits could increase risk of kidney stones. That's a whole nother lecture that I probably shouldn't give right now, and I won't give right now. But I'll just say God food versus man food. If you're eating God food in balance and your other four pillars are in balance, meaning mostly your peace pillar, when your peace pillar is in balance, you're going to have the stomach acid there in the right amount to break these food things down, and the proper pH and the proper digestion will occur, and you won't have to worry about limiting too much. But I'm sorry for you, you're going to have to really stick with your doctor. With kidney in particular, electrolytes can get off balance. So you just have to be careful there. And that kind of little tangent here, when I say steward your health, give the body what it needs, avoid what it doesn't, your body's designed and equipped to function normally, and it should reverse disease. If you've got some kind of permanent change to your design, to your engineered amazing design, you've had a surgery, you have scars from surgeries, you have something, you have artificial stuff in you, either whether that's metal in your mouth from dental work, it's hip replacement, knee replacement. When there are foreign things and permanent things and changes to your physiology, then that comes into play. And so there are some people that may have some permanent challenges that will impact their health. But even in that situation, that's still not oh well, give up hope, can't do anything. No, to me, that just makes you want to double down on the terrain. You want to double down on the four pillars and do the best you can. Your body's resilient and well equipped to be able to push back against any foreign material in the body. So still be encouraged. There's always hope. I mentioned the vitamin C rich foods already. Sauerkraut and the citrus fruits are really good. Sunlight and movement. I really want to stress this because a lot of people are indoors. You need to move. Movement's for oxygenation of the body, and the body loves oxygen. It helps fight those bugs better. Also for detoxification. When your body kills a bug, those dead bug parts got to go somewhere. and that somewhere is into your lymphatics. And the lymphatics are the waste removal system of the body, and it's a whole system of vessels up and down your body, but there's no pump to move that lymphatic fluid through the vessels. The pump is you moving. So we need movement to get rid of these dead bug parts. We need movement to oxygenate you, and we need movement to hydrate you. Turns out when you drink that water, or eat your water, as we like to say, eat food that's hydrating, to get it to every cell of the body, you need to twist and bend and move and squat. So get outside and move. And that sunlight does amazing things to the body. Not only makes your vitamin D, but also helps structure the water that's inside your cell, and you want your water to be structured, that fourth phase of water that Gerald Pollack talks about. Let's see. Next, I think that might be all of them. Any more coming in?
Can you talk about the patient order COVID-19 test kit?
Okay, yeah. Good question on COVID-19, how you order that test kit. So there's a new test kit out for people to get the newsletter that are patients of ours. They probably saw that in there. There's a lab out of Boston who, I believe they're in Boston. They're doing an antibody test. So when you're exposed to a virus, your body makes antibodies to that. These antibodies attach that virus. And basically you can think of it as putting a target on that virus's back. So now the other immune system cells can come in and gobble that thing up. So these antibodies are super good targeters on these viruses. So there's antibodies specific to this COVID-19. Two different main antibodies this test looks at, IgM and IgG. IgM is an antibody that revs up first to fight this bug, and then IgG will rev up a few days later. So this test looks at both of those. So if you've had the germ and been exposed at all, even if you're totally symptom-free, these antibodies will be in your system. So it's going to be a great test, especially to get people out of quarantine and to show people they have been exposed and they are immune now. They've got these antibodies to it. So the question is, how do you do that? And you've got to do it through your doctor's office. This lab has a website, and I can find it here in a second maybe. But basically, you've got to have a code from your doctor's office. You'll put that code in, order the kit. It's $150. They'll ship it to your house. You do have to have a phlebotomist either come to your house and draw the blood, or go to your doctor's office or a lab and get the blood drawn, and they can put it into the tube for this kit. You overnight the kit back to this lab, and they should have results back to you in 24 hours to 48 hours roughly. So it's going to be a great test to do yourself basically at home, especially if you have access to a mobile phlebotomist. Let me find that. I think I took a screenshot the other day. Yeah, here it is. Okay, so we can show this, can't we, Tim? There we go. So you see on this screenshot, I'll blow it up here, KBM as in mother, O, KBMO, diagnostics.com. And that's the website. You can look at it, get all the information there. Like it says there, $150. Looks like they have a discount if you type in Boston BioLife. But again, you'll need your doctor. So get your doctor's office to email or call these guys. They're super nice and helpful, and they'll get your doctor's clinic to sign up. You can get your code. The results go to your doctor. So that's a great test. Anything else? All right, guys, thanks for all those questions. Happy to do more of this in the future. You can send those questions to us on Facebook, but we'll be doing this on YouTube Live probably pretty regularly, trying to get a little more open access to y'all. I do want to say this. I was on a conference call this week with a couple of Italian doctors, and these guys have been using ozone in their clinics for 30 plus years. But there were regulations and restrictions on using medicinal ozone in the hospital. They weren't able to do that all these years, just in their clinic. But the Italian agency that's in charge of regulating hospital rules and policies lifted that ban and allowed ozone to be used in the ICU at these hospitals. So this was just this week. I got the report from these two guys, and they were only 5 days in to using medicinal ozone in the ICU on intubated patients. And of those 5 patients, 1 died the first day. He was already that close to death, and he was too sick and just died. The other 4, they reported dramatic and rapid improvement in oxygen saturation levels. So that's the amount of oxygen getting into the blood. Those oxygen levels came up substantially and quickly. Temperatures came down quickly. We're talking within hours to a day or 2. Temperatures afebrile. Tachycardia, which is high heart rate, came to normal. So normalization of temperature, heart rate, and oxygen levels, and then creatinine levels on the blood work. Creatinine is a marker for kidney function. Those were normalizing or improving. So to get someone off the ventilator, you've got to see they can maintain their oxygen level, and also it's nice that they have their kidney function coming back. Kidneys actually have a role to play in the carbon dioxide, oxygen level, and your pH of your blood. And that's really the way people succumb and ultimately die. They can't get the oxygen level to stay up in the blood, and their kidneys shut down, they die. So that's huge. I mean, in super sick patients in the ICU with COVID-19, and in just a matter of a day or 2, seeing those parameters, and they were able to extubate some of these patients. They're going to have a full report. They're going to try to do 40 or 50 patients over the next 2 weeks, and they'll have that full report to us, I'm sure. They'll publish that soon. But just want to bring that to kind of some late breaking news coming out of Italy. And for those that don't know, ozone has been used for 100 years in the medical research. It's been published on for 100 years, mostly in Germany, definitely throughout Europe. It's not really well known in the United States. Ozone is most known for industrial cleansing. You know, if you have a fire in your house or smoke damage, the carpet cleaner companies will come in and they'll set up an ozone generator. That ozone will take all that smell out of your clothes and out of your fabric with smoke damage. They use ozone to sterilize different industrial equipment, apparatuses. They use ozone to sterilize water, clean water. So we've used it industrially a lot, even here in the States. But medicinally, it's being used, and you can do, how they're doing in Italy is they're taking blood out of the patient into a bag, an IV bag, just like if you're donating blood. And it can be anywhere, I think they said between 100 and 150 cc's is what they're doing. And then you get the ozone, which ozone is oxygen, pure oxygen, a combination of O2, which is what we breathe, and O3, which is ozone. And it's about 98% O2 and only 2% O3. I call it super oxygen. But they get a syringe with this pure oxygen, O2 and O3. You put that into the bag of blood. It oxygenates that blood, and it does amazing things for your immune system and really all your systems. You drip that blood back into the patient. This is called major autohemotherapy. It's been done for ages. Again, lots of published data on that. It's just not widely accepted, definitely here in the United States, but now more so in Italy. So hopefully that'll be more widely used throughout the world. We've already talked about the vitamin C and the studies on it, the reports coming out of China with COVID and even out of New York that it's beneficial for those ICU patients. That would be consistent with published studies that I've already presented on previous videos from JAMA, CHEST, and a pharmacy research journal that showed decreased mortality rates with respiratory distress in the ICU, people with sepsis and ARDS in the ICU, and mortality rates dramatically diminish when they add the vitamin C IV. So be encouraged. Lots of doctors out there who are more forward-thinking, open-minded, using more integrative techniques to work with the body's immune system to get amazing results. We cannot claim that ozone cures COVID. We cannot claim vitamin C cures COVID. We cannot claim that UV light cures COVID. To make a claim like that, at least in the United States, you have to have approval by the FDA. The only thing that could cure something is a drug, and the FDA approves drugs. So we'd have to put these things through a drug trial. But these are naturally occurring molecules, oxygen and light and vitamin C. And so a drug trial is very expensive, and to do that would be not really a feasible thing to do, because you could not put a patent on naturally occurring things, and therefore there's not money to be made to recoup your cost of going through that drug trial with the FDA. So probably need to look at that whole system a little differently and see if there's some way to be able to get these kind of things approved by hospitals and get doctors educated, because that's the next thing. even if some authority figure heard this, a political figure, the president, the governors, mayors, city councilmen, as soon as they heard or looked at these studies I'm talking about, or looked at the press release that talks about the ozone in Italy, the first thing these politicians will do is go to their medical advisors and ask their doctor advisors, what about this? And those doctors will turn to the CDC, FDA, and say, oh, those aren't approved. And the doctors sure don't know about them because they weren't trained in medical school in these techniques. So then it just kind of stops right there. And that's unfortunate. So that system will need to be looked at some point. And now would be a great time. Anyways, lots of hope, guys. Remember, the vast majority, this is a mild cold. You'll be fine. For those who have loved ones who have not stewarded their terrain and they're at high risk, share this with them. Get off sugar. Eat real food. Get the citrus and sauerkraut going for the vitamin C. Get some sunshine and movement going. Stay well hydrated. Add a pinch of sea salt to that water for minerals. If you are experiencing symptoms, up your A and your D that's in the cod liver oil. Up your vitamin C. And consider talking with your doctor about nebulizing a little food-grade hydrogen peroxide diluted in 3 cc's of saline or water, and talk to your doctor about iodine nebulized. There's other modalities out there. A good integrated practitioner is going to know about them, so go find you one. Okay, until next time, be at peace. Look forward to visiting with you in the future. Thank you for joining us. Be sure to subscribe to our channel because we're trying to get the word out to more people that there's hope in truth. So stay tuned and check back with us in the future. Bye-bye.